Hello, I'm Eric Folks, Instructional Technology Coordinator for Lampasas ISD, and today we are going to learn about Smart Notebook, getting to know your Smart Notebook icons, Part 1. In this session, we are going to cover some of the basics. Okay, first, along the left-hand side, we've got most of our page navigation. This little white Pages here, if we click on it, we can see each page that we have open. In this, we have the ability to, from the drop-down, delete a whole page, or to clone a whole page. We also have the ability, if we want, to rename a page, which helps with navigation down the road and links. We have the ability to add a screen shade just to that entire page. Notice how my toolbar disappeared over here, all of my pages. When I click on this, it should come right back up. But if I click in my workspace over here, it's going to disappear because down on the bottom left, we've got the auto hide selected. If I deselect that, and then I click over here, I don't lose my pages. Other options from the drop-down would include the ability to add the entire page to the gallery. Smart Exchange offers many great Smart Notebook lessons that are either shells where you fill in the content or their entire lessons. That will be covered in other trainings. But from those lessons, you have the ability to pull in just a single page if you enjoy that page and you think that is worth something, but the rest of the lesson is not. Likewise, if you've got a whole bunch of different animations and different things that are part of a lesson, and you don't want to have to recreate the entire thing, but there are multiple objects on that page, adding the entire page to the gallery will allow you to bring in the whole page in one fell swoop. Let's go ahead and talk about the gallery. I'm going to click Add Page to Gallery just so we can see that in a minute. Notice how it took me from the Pages icon in the top left here to the Gallery icon, which looks like a picture frame. In the gallery, you're going to have a few different folders. We're going to hold off on the My Content folder, and we're going to talk about some of the basics. The Gallery Essentials is what's included in the Smart Notebook software. It's a collection of, it's really the equivalent of Microsoft Office, PowerPoint, and Word clip art. You can see how many pictures I've got right here. If I click on the little drop down arrow, it's going to expand that, and I'll be able to preview those. Interactive and multimedia, and these are things that actually have sounds. And notebook files and pages. These are entire pages. If I go to a new page and I pull in this whole engine, you can see it resizes for me automatically because it's an entire page. And backgrounds and themes. And in the backgrounds and themes you can have a variety of different things, including grid paper and lines, handwriting, you name it. I'll click New Page and show you what some of this looks like. There we go. So I scroll back up and minimize again. These are the Gallery Essentials, and it's kind of difficult to find a picture out of 5,000, but if you want to, you can use the search. And now we can see there are 154 pictures that are associated in some way or another with water. Okay, so those are the Gallery Essentials. You can also browse the Gallery Essentials by subject level. You can see I've got English and Language Arts, and it tells me how many pictures are in there. I can dig down into grammar, adjectives, and so forth. And just like in Windows Explorer, it creates a directory, and it goes down further and further, drills down further and further into whatever I'm looking for. But there are a variety of other subjects as well. Okay, so that's the Gallery Essentials. The next thing I want to show you is My Content folder. The My Content folder is something that I could spend 45 minutes explaining. In fact, I have. If you look for the Smart Document Camera and Gallery training and Safari Montage, It shows you extensively how you can use the My Content folder to digitize content and instructional materials like worksheets and so forth, pull them into My Content, and be able to pull them in on the fly during instruction even if you don't have that particular Smart Notebook file open. But for now, we're going to just preview it real briefly. So you can see I've got in My Content folder, Interactive and Multimedia. Definition of atoms is something that I had pulled into this. I've also got in My Content folder, and that's a little flash-based video, I've got 3D objects, and if you have a smart document camera connected, they are actually three-dimensional, and you can click on them and rotate them and so forth. And there's a whole separate training on 3D objects. Notebook files and pages. And this is where we're going to find the entire page that we saved earlier. This welcome right here. So I can drag that in as well. And notice it remembered that I had a screen shade attached to it and even where the screen shade was placed. So you'll have a folder for every type of object that you pull in. In this case, I've just got three different types of objects, but let's say I create a heart. I click my black selection tool. If I want to, I can drag that heart, because I worked so hard on it, straight over in here by left-clicking on it, holding the left click down as I drag it all the way over. And you can see the little plus I've got next to my cursor or arrow. I let go, and now I've got a new folder called Pictures. And from there, whether I have this notebook file open or anything else, even if I don't save, anything I put in the My Content folder in the gallery is going to be pulled up next time I open up Notebook. And I can just drag those things in. Now again, when you're pulling things into the gallery, make sure that you've got the auto hide deselected, because if I've got it selected and I try to bring in a different object, notice how it disappeared over here? So I left click on my selection arrow, and because the object doesn't have anything inside of it, I have to click on the edge of it. But now dragging it in there is going to be a whole lot more difficult. But when I drag it over the picture, it opens it up for me, and then I can determine which folder I want to put it in. It's going to have to be My Content somewhere, and I can put it straight in there, and it gives me the plus to indicate I can drop it in there, or I can put it straight in the folder down here. It's all going to the same place. Okay, so we have covered the gallery essentials and the My Content. The lesson activity toolkit we are going to cover in a separate training, but let me just pique your interest by saying the lesson activity toolkit has tons of interactive and multimedia, lots of fun things that you can use with your class for a variety of different content areas. Okay, Google 3D Warehouse is another place that you can find lots of different materials, and that's a separate training as well because 3D is quite involved. Not necessarily in terms of how difficult it is to use, but just in terms of getting it up and running, making sure that you have your smart document camera connected, knowing how to download it from Google 3D Warehouse. That's a separate training, so look for that soon. Okay, these two, the K through 6 ELA for Smart Notebook and this K through 6 Math, are purchased from AEGOM. It's AEGOM. It's a aftermarket content provider where you can actually purchase extra lessons, and these were purchased for Hannah Springs at this point, so not all campuses will have access to those, but they are full-fledged lessons, 25 pages a piece, that you can use if you decide to purchase them or your principal decides to purchase them. Okay, so we've spent a little bit of time on the gallery. Let's look to the next. This is attachments. Now the attachments gives you the ability to attach to this Smart Notebook file any other file that you reference in it. So down here you can see there's an insert button. If I click the insert, I'm going to insert a whole copy of a file. Let's see if I can find something on my desktop. Smart How-To Vids. So I click that and open, and it pulls in a copy of it, so that later on, if I create a link in Smart Notebook to that file, it's going to find it, even if I am not on this computer at the time, because the Word document is actually a part of this notebook file now. So anywhere the notebook file goes, the Word document follows. So you don't have to worry about having to remap and find a particular file if you use the attachments. Okay, the last thing is the properties. The properties icon or tab right here the options you see are going to depend on what you've got selected. Right now I don't have anything selected on the page, so it just gives me the options for the page itself. Page recording is one of those options. If I click start recording and I use my little pen tool and I start doing some fanciness, you can see it's recording. I go back to the properties and the page recording and I stop it. So now when I play it, it's actually going to do what I did. Now realize that this is for individual page recording. So you can actually record something you're doing. Maybe this is a math problem, step by step, and you don't want to show them how to do it step by step over and over again. You can record the problem and the solution to the problem and click play, and it will play it for you. Other neat things about the page recording is because it's associated with a particular page, realize that with your little drop-down option, you can rename that page with a particular date or the name of a particular student who demonstrated what they knew at that time. This is great documentation and easy documentation that shows what they're actually able to do at the time. Okay, so let's go back to the properties here and look at some other options. We have in here line style and fill effects as well. So if I fill something, we've got a degree of transparency. Line style, I can pick different colors, change the widths. A lot of people think that the 4 colored pens on their smartboard are the only colors that they have, or that from this little drop down here they can pick from these same 4 basic colors, or that these are the only 2 colors of highlighters. But realize you have a whole wealth of different colors for you to choose from if you take advantage of the properties over here. So I'm going to say I want a pencil thin yellow line, and I want it to be dotted. That's pretty pencil thin. I can also, if I want to use the highlighter, say I'm going to highlight something yellow, if I go back to my little black selection, I select that, then I go to properties. I could always change that to something other than yellow or green. And in this case, I could also change it to a particular line style. Well, not so much with highlighting. That's more with an actual pen. But I can certainly change the color. Okay, so let's look at fill effects for particular objects. So here's the little shape I've got, and I just clicked on the edge of it because there's nothing inside of it. So I clicked on the edge to move it around. I'm going to select it, go over to Properties, and I'm going to fill it with, let's say, Badger Blue. Alright, so I've got blue and a black border. I want to change the border to something that contrasts a little bit more with it. And I want that border to be nice and thick. Too thick. So I have the ability to change that as well. But notice I'm not restricted to just having Badger Blue in there or one solid color. If I go back to my fill effects, I can also select I want a gradient fill. This is one of my favorites. So I'm going to go blue and I'm going to go yellow, and now you can see a blending of the two. I can even tell it the style of the blend. Right now it's set to horizontal, but if I want those two colors blended together vertically, I can do that, or forward or backward diagonal as well. You also have the ability to fill an object with a pattern, and there are a bunch of pre-made patterns for you to pick from. And you can determine the foreground color and the background color as well. I could even say I want to fill it with an image and browse to that image. So I'm going to fill it with the badger. Now I may need to make this a little bit bigger so that my badger will actually fit. And notice it's going to just continue to replicate that image. And notice it tries to snap to and hold that proportion until I force it to change. Okay, so whether it's images or patterns, you have lots of different options for how you can fill a particular object. Okay, so we've covered fill effects, line style. Now let's look at some fun stuff like object animation. I'm going to select my heart and I'm going to animate the heart. It's getting a little crowded in here, so I'm going to cut this out, click New Page, and I'm going to right click and paste it on a new page. So let's see what we can do. Now, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to click on here and deselect the auto hide so we don't have to keep clicking on it. Notice we don't have object animation anymore. Why is that? Well, it's because we don't have anything selected, so it's just giving us the options available with the background. If I select this, now look at my options. I can adjust my image transparency. Now you see that used more effectively. I can also animate the object. So right now it's set to none, but maybe I want it to fade out. Nice and slow. When it's clicked, I also like this feature, when the page is entered. So if you have got an object that you want to call their attention to when they enter the page without them ever having to click on it, this would be one of those ways to do it. And you can also, from the drop down here under repeats, have it do it as many times as you want. One of the easiest ways to get kids started with a smartboard is have them come up and click the shape tool, pick a shape, left click and drag to size it, pick the black selection, select the edge of it, fill it with a color, and then animate it and make it do something. And they love something really obnoxious like shrink and grow. And we're going to have it happen until the object is clicked again. So it's going to start when it's clicked and it's going to keep going until it's clicked again. So now I click off, click the object, and now it's going to just continue to shrink and grow. Now with one object it's not too visually overwhelming, but if you've got 20 to 30 kids in the class and each one of them creates a different object, you can see how this would very quickly create a lot of action on the screen. And they love it, and they start getting comfortable up at the board, which is ultimately our goal. This last icon I want to focus on is the Smart Response. Now we're just going to look at this for a second because these are the smart clickers. Smart Response is the clicker software, and it integrates real smoothly into Smart Notebook. But again, that's an entire another training. Don't want to overwhelm you with too much. So I think we're going to stop right there. Again, to review, here's our page sorter. I can drag pages to rearrange them. I have lots of options from the drop down. Here's my gallery, which is where I'm going to find all the clip art, and also the ever valuable My Content folder. Our attachments, so that the files we link to actually follow wherever the notebook file is saved to and goes to. And our properties, which is going to depend on what object is selected as far as what the properties are. Okay, thank you very much. Again, I'm Eric, folks. If you have any questions, feel free